December 1st, 2023. This is the S&P 500E Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart using the NinjaTrader 8 platform. This is what the chart looked like today. It looked like it kind of was range bound somewhat, rallied, and then it kind of ended in another range. So it looked like it was just a little bit of a step. There was actually, I guess, three pieces of economic data or three things that moved the market. The first was at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard, right here, which was the ISM manufacturing PMI. And then Jerome Powell, the Fed chair, at 8 o'clock gave a press conference and gave some commentary on, direction that people were interpreting where the Fed might go, whether raising, lowering, or keeping interest rates the same. And then again, he had a roundtable discussion right around 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, where he spoke again, right here. But by then, most of the market had already digested, and there was nothing really discussed at 11 o'clock Pacific Standard that, really shocked anybody else. So it looked like what he said here at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard caused this big giant rally. So this is how I saw the charts today. It was a little bit easier trading for sure than pretty much the last few days. And I took a total of 2 trades. And one of the trades was right as the PMI ISM manufacturing information was coming out. And in hindsight, that was kind of a risky thing to do because it gets very whipsaw, especially if it was a FOMC interest rate decision, which really would have shocked and moved the market a whole lot. But I was lucky to get out, but then there was a weird thing that happened in NinjaTrader that I'll discuss, and I'll show you kind of what happened. So I'm going to go through the trades now. So in the pre-market, which is this gray area, it looked like it rallied, then it sold off, consolidated again, and have a smaller little sell-off. So here in the pre-market, I'm not really sure where the market's going to go because the last day it was kind of choppy and then it kind of recovered in the last 30 minutes. So I just kind of sat and watched. Right now, prices were below the EMA. It kind of flashed above and it chopped around. I wasn't really sure what's going on. I did see a new high here, first entry long, second entry long. The second entry long is it's okay. It's a decent signal bar, but I didn't like it for the fact that I'm not really convinced that that could be the low to create a bounce because it was looking like a localized low here. And this dotted red line is just marking the lows, the extreme lows of the day, and it's already down here. So it didn't feel like a safe trade to take. Prices continue moving. So I did see this as a new low. It's a first entry short, pulls back, it's rejected by the EMA, and it creates a second entry short here. But as I said, it's already kind of pressing along the lows. And I'm thinking this setup is below the EMA. So to think of a failure feels a little bit risky. And it's bouncing off the bottom for sure. And I'm not sure if this is going to act as a resistance because previously prices couldn't break through the EMA. I mean, it did here, but for the most part, you could argue confidently the EMA is holding prices down. So to go for a long felt risky, and definitely you don't want to go short because this was the signal bar and you're already pressing against the lows. So I thought maybe prices are going to push back up. It might be range bound. So I wanted a higher low. The higher low never shows up till about right here. But by then it just didn't feel like, because it felt like I'm running into another potential resistance right up here. So prices continue moving. I'm just watching. I don't have this green channel drawn yet, but I do see that it is very bullish, or there's a bullish bias to it because it hasn't come back to the EMA. Finally, it touches and breaks through. And here, this is where I first draw the trend line, and I placed another line on top as a potential channel. And I was just working off of this. The first trade I take, and keep in mind, the ISM PMI manufacturing is coming out at 7 a.m. Pacific Standard. And I was looking at this, I didn't take that into consideration. I looked at all the news items that would come out today. I had it in my mind, but this is about 30 minutes later and I completely forgot. So I actually saw this price action moving, and I saw this as a new low. I saw first entry short, pullback, second entry short. I like the looks of this signal bar, but I wasn't sure if, I wasn't more convinced that it was going to be a failure because it's already pushing up. So here, it flashes down, it confirms your first entry short, second entry short, but it looks like it's on its way up. What I liked about this trade is when I created this as a potential support, I saw it as two key entry points. The EMA is holding, and potentially this lower level of the green up channel is also holding. So I counted it as one touch, two touch, potentially a third bounce. So I entered one tick above because I thought there was enough room to scalp out. And again, not knowing what was going to happen soon. So this is a higher low, but this is also right where the economic data came out. So I was lucky in this regard that since it could have been whipsaw, it could have flashed down, stopped me out, and then continued on its way up. So this was definitely a riskier trade to have taken. So I wasn't thinking that through fully. Right. So actually, I was interrupted briefly, but going back to the trade. So I did enter here. It was a higher low, but this is right at where the economic news, the ISM PMI manufacturing came out. So I was fortunate. In hindsight, I'll be more careful not taking these trades, or at least make a note to myself to stay out of trades during this potential news information. But here's what's funny. So I got this entry. I was profitable, but as I was trading, I entered the trade with the active trading ATM strategy. And when it filled, I wasn't sure what happened, but it sounded like I was looking at my NinjaTrader account. And it looked like I used a trade copier, and it looked like a couple of my accounts did not fully close. So I went ahead and closed it, but I was on my leader account. And so what happened, it looked like it created a new entry. So here is the open, and here was the close, and then I hit close again on the NinjaTrader platform, and instead of flattening, which I thought it would have done, it entered me short, which caused me to panic. So let me just show you what happened. So here's my original trade. I took two contracts. I was able to get out with a profit. I noticed some of my accounts didn't close correctly, so I closed it, but it ended up opening a couple of them. And so I quickly just hit flatten. So this was an intentional trade. This was not an intentional trade. So this one got the profit target of 1 point that I was aiming for. And this one, fortunately, even though it was whipsawing, because you can see this is at 7 o'clock, this is only 4 seconds later. This is only 9 seconds later after that. And this is 20 seconds later after that. So this is happening in very quick succession as traders and algos and everybody is interpreting the news. So it was actually quite fortunate for me to just get a one tick profit, which kind of covered commissions on that weird thing that happened. But that was because a lot of the times it was just the news happened so quickly, caused the market to whipsaw very quickly. Another reason to stay out of the trade during that time, unless you have very, very wide stop losses, but then you're risking quite a bit. So it was actually two trades already created, and one of them was unintentional, and I was just lucky to, pretty much limp out of there. The prices continue going. Let's see, there we go. Causes a small breakout overshoot, and I'm watching. It creates a symmetrical overshoot out here. I don't see quite a setup that I like. I do have a first entry long. So here is potential second entry long coming out, but I'm very wary and cautious of an overshoot because an overshoot is pushing once, twice. I'm wary of going long in the same direction as where the overshoot happened because it could break out to the other side, even though this overshoot could be matching this one. So it's just telling me just to be cautious. Plus, it's now below the EMA. Flashes up, depending on what you're going for, it might have worked. And it starts moving down, so I'm just kind of sitting and watching and waiting. I drew this as a potential resistance. Originally, I did have it more shallow here, like this blue one, but I didn't like the fact that it didn't quite fit clean because it didn't quite touch this one. Whereas by this time, it looked like it touched once, had a small overshoot, touched twice, and I kind of left it there. Prices can continue moving down, and this red channel is actually a little bit higher, so I had overshoot here, but as it kind of dwelled here and flashed up, I eventually drew it down to here. But what I did see is a new low here. It's a first entry short, pull back. It's here, about to create the second entry short. I like that it closed below the EMA, and it is the first break of this yellow channel down. So it's first break of one attempt up, pullback, made a second attempt. And now, instead of making a new high on this green channel, I'm thinking it's going to try to test the lows of this yellow channel. So I decided to take a trade here. I entered right at the lows right here. I was able to quickly scalp out for 1 point. I wasn't going to try to press my luck. I was kind of a little bit thinking I dodged a bullet here for sure. So I wasn't going to try to be too ambitious. On top of that, the risk on this candle is very tiny. It's a good signal bar, and it's only about 1 point of risk. Prices then continue moving. If you went for 2 points, you'd have to sit through this chop, which actually isn't that long. It's only about 2 minutes. But then I was just happy to get my 1 point. So if you wanted more than that, you probably would have gotten it. Prices then continue moving down. As soon as it came down to here, that's where I dragged this from here down to here. Also, when I did have it up here, another reason is I didn't want to push it too far. Is because I saw this as a potential overshoot. It'd be one push up, second push up. It could come back down, or it could be counted as one leg, and it could be pushing another leg to test this. So after this price action here at this point in time, I decided to drag this down to here because it looked like it fit a little bit better. There is a small overshoot here. It comes back, it creates another overshoot on this side, just kind of sitting on my hands, watching and waiting. Prices then move. I saw this as one potential leg up. Technically, you have a first entry short, second entry short. You can see this is first entry short on the bigger scale. One push down, pushes up. It's trying to make this second leg, but I don't see it yet. It is holding against the EMA, but right here, this is 8 o'clock. This is right when Fed Chair Powell is about to speak. And remembering what just happened right here, I was a lot more cautious. So even if a second entry was going to set up, I would still be really reluctant to take that trade. So he comes out, he starts adding some color commentary, flashes down. I don't want to get involved in any of this because you can see this is right here. This is 8 o'clock in 2 seconds, 8 o'clock in 7 seconds. There's only 5 seconds. And then these are only a few seconds. So this whole, you see all these candles, these last 7 candles printed in 1 minute. They're just happening very quickly. Then these next candles are all printing in the next minute. So this is only 2 minutes of price action. That's a lot of things going on. So I'm just sitting and trying to be patient, watching and waiting for all this noise to play out. Comes up. I do draw this as a potential channel. I didn't have this big yellow one first, but I did have this as a trend line first because I was thinking maybe there's something here because originally I had the top of the trend line drawn first. It looked like there's some kind of resistance here, and I just try to make the bottom match. So I'm thinking there's potentially this yellow channel in play. But again, I'm just a little bit weary because unlike the ISM PMI manufacturing data, where it just comes out and people are digesting it, this at 8 o'clock, Powell is talking and he's continuing to talk. So he's adding color. People are interpreting it one way or the other. He's not necessarily answering questions yet, but he's just talking. And that's creating a lot of volatility. So I'm just waiting, watching, waiting, and hoping it kind of plays out and the setup forms. So I do draw, I like the touches on the top side of this yellow channel, and then the bottom side I'm not too sure of yet because I only had about 2 confirmations. Comes back down, it touches, it bounces. Here I'm watching and I'm wondering if it's going to bounce back up or it's going to break through. It looks like it breaks through. So at this point I'm questioning whether this yellow channel is still in play and if it's going to come up and touch the highs. It comes up, it tries to make it back in. This purple channel doesn't exist yet. It comes up, it breaks through. I saw one leg up, pull back. It's creating a second leg up. So it's creating a visual second entry short. So it's a new low here. It's a first entry short, pull back, second entry short. At this point, I'm thinking maybe there's some kind of trend line here because it looked like there could be a potential orange channel forming. And I'm not sure right now if this yellow channel is still in play. And I'm thinking I had this trend line for this purple one drawn now as soon as this one formed. So I have these 3 channels. Clearly they're bullish. I have this purple one, which is kind of capturing all this price action. This yellow one, which is what I was originally playing. And I'm thinking this orange one could be this part of the leg. So I have all these things at least telling me, don't think about going short yet. Think about going long. but look for a good setup. And so I wasn't sure which of these was going to dominate. So when I saw this, I was thinking, okay, if the yellow channel's still in play, there's a breakout, try to make one attempt up. This could be the second attempt up, and if it fails, at least for the yellow channel, it failed. There's two things going for this short. It looked like it failed the yellow channel, and it looked like it's at the top of this orange channel, but this orange channel hasn't been verified, all contained within this purple channel. So I saw a potential failed second, excuse me, a second entry short visual, but this candle isn't convincing enough. By the time this one closes, this is really convincing, but it felt too late to take this trade because it already flashed down. So if I wanted to play this, I'd have to trust that the two orange and yellow channels were already kind of making a correction, but the candle just kind of prevented me from doing that. If it closed a little bit lower, I would have felt more confident, but by the time this candle formed and it was flashing down, the trade was already made. On top of that, it felt like it's counter trend. So it was just a bunch of things going on in my mind that made me pause, and I'm okay skipping that trade. So then right now, it looks like it's following this orange channel pretty well. I've kind of thought the yellow channel at this point has played out because it did test the highs right here. But now the orange channel is in play, and it moves up. It kind of hits here. It looks like it's rejecting it. It's coming back down. So I'm really liking this orange channel now. It bounces again. So I think, okay, definitely this orange channel is in play, all contained potentially in this larger purple channel. So I just have to sit and wait for a good setup. You have a new high, new high here, first entry long. You don't have a second entry long, but you do have a higher low here, but there's just not enough confirmation yet. I do see this as a new low, first entry short, second entry short by one tick, and it fails. So I thought this was a failed second entry short. It's a good signal bar, but I'm already pressing toward the highs, and I wanted an EMA bounce. I wanted a closer EMA bounce to give me a little more confidence, but there's no room here. Also, you could also see this as, even though it's first entry short, second entry short, could be seen as just one leg. So that just felt like a little bit riskier setup. Prices then continue moving. You technically have a new high, first entry long. You have a second entry long, but this is a pretty bad signal bar. I didn't think about having a trade ready to go long. Looks like it would have worked, but you'd have to sit through this chop. Flashes up. I'm thinking, okay, for sure this orange channel is in play, and it's debatable whether the purple channel is even needed at this point. Comes back down, but now the purple channel looks like it's in play. It bounces off the purple channel. And so what I saw here was actually new high, first entry long, second entry long. The count resets. I saw this as new high, first entry long, second entry long, and a potential higher low. But I also saw it as more of a visual. So I grouped this as just a new high, and I said it's a first entry long bounce off the purple, neglecting that it just went one tick. So it's just a one leg down, first leg up, second leg up. So here I thought this is what I would say kind of like a possible trade, because it's bouncing off the purple at this point, and it's the first break of the orange channel. So you would think it wants to test a high. So it made one push up, and it's getting ready for the second push up. So definitely, I think this could have been a trade because it could have been a second entry long or a higher low, depending on how you did the count. But I didn't take the trade. Flashes up. And in hindsight, I was thinking about it and I was debating it, and I thought, okay, it might have been worth a trade because this is also this candle is only about 6 ticks. So it would have been worthwhile to take a trade because it would have been 8 points of risk, 2 points, not 8 points of risk, 8 ticks of risk. Prices then continue moving up. It kind of looks like it's going back into this orange channel, but I'm thinking this orange channel might have played out now. It's not quite as important as the purple one. And it's interesting because the yellow one was important, then the orange one, and now the purple one. Flashes up, it breaks through. Here creates a second entry short, first entry short, second entry short. This is, I would say, an almost setup. I wanted the close to be lower, closer to the bottom, and I also wanted it to be rejected off the EMA because this candle kind of closed at the middle. If it closed a little bit lower, I feel more confident because what it tells me is at the very last moment, buyers came in and pushed it all the way back up to the midpoint. So that's a little bit less safe in my opinion. So then prices are moving down. Let's see. Prices continue moving down. It breaks out. So it's overshoot here, matching overshoot, comes back down, makes a new low. Overshoot here. It looks like it's a new low here. First entry short, pulls up. Second entry short. Now, at the time I saw this, I gave too much, and I had this. I didn't really have this as a firm trend line yet. But what I stopped me from taking this trade because it's actually two clean legs up. One leg up, pull back, second leg up. And this down channel wants to be tested. The purple channel, it looks like it's losing power because it never came back to touch the other side. So it could have been, even though the purple channel was somewhat in play, looks like prices are kind of reversing. So the thing was, this is probably a worthwhile trade to have taken. I didn't take it because I gave too much respect to the EMA at this point. I wanted this to actually close below the EMA. But in hindsight, after two legs up, a break of the screen channel, it could have been worth the risk because it's a good close to at least put in an entry for at least a quick scalp. And that's exactly what happened. But after this confirmed the second entry short, it was already too late, I felt, to try to enter. And prices continue moving down. But this was definitely, I think, a trade that I had missed. And unfortunately, probably would have been okay. Prices then continue chopping. Now I drew this because it looks like it's definitely in a channel. I drew this as the bottom of the trend line. This is top trend line. It created this yellow channel. Chopping around respects it, pushes back up. Looks like EMA is kind of holding prices down at this point, which is good. It always breaks up a little bit and comes back down, but I'm just watching. No clean setup I can see. I see this consolidation area, this range. This larger blue one I don't have drawn yet. Comes about later. I saw this as a new low. So first entry short, pull back, second entry short. Now this second entry short, this is actually a good possible trade too. Unfortunately, I wasn't paying attention to the charts and I saw this after the fact. But this is actually a pretty decent trade because it's the top of this blue, the smaller blue range. Looks like for sure it's consolidating. It's the first break of this yellow channel. Technically you have a first break here, but it's a first decisive break here. So it went, broke out, tested once, pull back, second time. It's a decent signal bar. There's enough room to get back down to the bottom of the range. So it was worthwhile to take a trade. Then, for sure it worked out. It would have probably got your 1 point. And then it came flashing back up. Here it gets noisy. I don't really like anything that I see. Comes back up. So here, I noticed it respected some kind of resistance here. So I was debating the idea of maybe this larger trading range might be in play. But I just noticed this trading range was a much better one because it was touching the highs, touching the lows, it was bouncing back and forth. This secondary one that I drew later is a little more iffy because it never came back to test it, so it doesn't feel like it's quite like that it's in play. I saw this one leg down, and I was thinking that another leg was going to come down, but it didn't. But I also saw this one leg up, and it pushed back. I'm thinking there might be a second leg up. Technically, you have a new high here. First entry long, second entry long, third entry long. We can see it as just one first entry long, so it could actually be from here. First entry long, second entry long in the visual, but this is just noisy. I didn't really like these candles. It's too doji-ish. Prices then continue moving. And at this point, it looks like it's just getting really noisy and it's getting late in the day. So I was just happy with my 2/3 trades. Happy that I survived that second trade that was kind of this weird, unintentional thing that happened with NinjaTrader. And of course, then as going the last 10 minutes, it's getting very choppy now. So for here, even though I'm watching this, I decided I'm just not going to take any trades and just kind of ride it out. And it kind of goes into the close. So there are definitely, this first trade was risky, so it shouldn't have happened. The second trade was okay. There is this trade here, which I thought was a pretty decent setup, the second entry short, as well as this other second entry short. But in between, there wasn't that much. So you'd have to first sit through this noise here. Probably taken an ideal where I would have taken this setup and I would have taken these other two setups right here, this short here and this short there. So pretty interesting day, a lot more price action, a lot more volatility than the last, several days. So I think it was definitely easier in that regard because prices were doing a little bit more predictable things as opposed to the last few days. It was just very tight, confusing. So hopefully that was helpful.